Hey guys, welcome to chapter 3, where I'm going to be going through this thing called price anchoring. So, what is price anchoring? Price anchoring is a psychological principle where the first price that someone sees influences how they're going to behave and how they're going to make a purchase. Okay, and I'm going to show you how actually we have been exposed to it in many instances. For example, you might have been on an Amazon page whereby they show you three very similar products. And this actually influences you when you look at the comparison between these items and you pick one that suits your needs. And oftentimes it can actually make you be wanting to purchase one item more than the other. It can also mean like places like Sephora or any actually online products where they put an actual price and what you are currently paying based off the current promos or special event sales that they might have been going on. And that also again anchors a price and you feel that you are getting a very good deal. There's a lot of customer delight when you're making this purchase at this different purchase point compared to this anchor price. Okay, that's another way to anchor a price to make a better sale. Other ways also could be when you see places where they bundle things together. So instead of just having either item B or C, they say this is commonly purchased together with this. And it has been shown that people tend to purchase the bundles more than just product by itself, right? And instantly increases the amount of total quantum of purchase. So what's the role of anchoring in consumer decision making, right? So what you need to do first is set an appropriate anchor. So I'll go in a bit more depth as we move through the course. And you would also need to present more than one option. Okay. And of course, you will need to provide some context and justification to why these are the options and why one is more or better than the rest, right? And how can this apply to a physiotherapy clinic setting? Right. So what you can do is you can actually show a higher price or your highest price value product that you have or service. For example, you might, if you usually sell maybe a 45-minute session, anchor price would be a 60-minute session, could be, right? Or if your usual package sales is 1,500 for 10 session, you can anchor it by putting a much higher priced package, like $3,000 a program, as the anchor. So what happens is people will view that price and they realize that there is actually a slightly cheaper option while still giving them the same or equal value in terms of what they gain at the end of that number of sessions. And that influences them to make a quicker purchase or a more informed purchase, right? So it just guides them to that number. So if that's what you want to do, versus just having a 45-minute session for $200 on your website and so on, right? So if you just have that, for example, it may not show them the true value or the psychological value that they may perceive, right? So this is how you can use the anchor pricing in your clinics. And you can also bundle them together. For example, you can have a physio session at this set price, but you can also say you can get a physio session plus a 15 or 30-minute, let's say, sports massage session for this price. So people, I can tell you that people likely may be more inclined to purchasing the bundle deal, especially if they have the cash flow to expand in your clinic and they truly trust what you do. They feel that actually, since they're already coming down, they might get the best value by having the physio session and having the sports massage session back to back, right? And you might end up having a greater quantum of sale per client per session through these means, right? As simple as that. It's just bundling together existing services, right? So these are some ways that you can use anchoring, and there are many places you can use it as well, such as your website, your flyers, and even during your verbal consultations where you can explain to them the different tiers of services that you have and why one is better, and you let them make the choice. Okay. So these are the techniques. So you can put in the tiered pricing method that I explained earlier, or the bundled products, and definitely highlight the contrast in whichever mode of presentation that you have. So these are some successful examples of anchor pricing that's been done before, which we have been exposed to as well many a times. For example, Uber's search pricing, or in other parts of the world, maybe Grab, where they have a dynamic pricing, meaning when it's peak hour, the prices go up like crazy, and this incentivizes the drivers and also gives value to the consumer who is willing to pay that extra dollar to get home in time, for example, right? So when there's a normal day, people know that there is a chance that the prices can go up to twice the amount, even, right? Sometimes in a blink of an eye, in a few minutes, right? So that becomes the anchor. So when they actually pay a certain price during an off-peak hour, they get customer delight, right? So they're willing to pay that because they know it can go up to this amount, right? So that's how a dynamic anchor pricing could work. Other examples I've listed here. Maybe I can show you some other examples as well based off that. So for example, Starbucks. So these are all the different sizes that Starbucks sell. But it was interesting as you look through the research, they actually did a data, like a study on this, and to find which cups people actually buy the most, right? So no surprise, it was actually the grande version. And it was also noted that it was because you had this anchor pricing and also a decoy, right? So very few people bought the tall, right? So the people just don't find that it gives them much value in terms of how much they are spending. They rather either go for the grande or the venti, right? So I think the split was like 40, 30, 20, around those regions. And this is actually what they call like a decoy pricing, means you set something there that you don't expect people to buy, but it gives them kind of a gauge to how low this value can get. And you kind of entice them to get this, or even upsize to this other price, which is actually an anchor, right? And it guides them to the grande cup size. So this is what Starbucks does, and you find that most shops don't even have these extremes, right? So because they don't sell, right? And another example is also by The Economist, which is a print magazine, and they also did a study on experiment on this. So what they did was they had initially a digital product and a print product. So digital product, for example, in this article, you can see it was going for 45 Aussie dollars, and the print version, of course, is more value because you're getting a hard copy. It's higher priced at 60. So they only used to have these two, and they decided to introduce a middle tier whereby you combine both. Again, the digital product, it doesn't take a lot to sell, right? In terms of actual cost, right? So when they bundled it together and they actually jacked up the price, this was the best seller, right? So just like that, again, using existing products and services, bundling them together, you actually have a higher value offer, right? Because of this anchoring technique. So those are some ways to do it, and you have to be mindful of some of the pitfalls. So such as over relying on a single anchor. So you do have to play around with the type of services, maybe the length of time, maybe the slight differences in how you bundle them together and so on. So you do have to vary them from time to time, right? You also cannot anchor it at an unrealistic price point. So, it just doesn't make sense. You have to be able to show a contrast, show the difference, right? So as we mentioned from the start, failure to adjust, like I mentioned, lack of context, you have to provide the context, and always listen to the feedback from your consumers, right? So see if you have one anchor price and the actual price that you are trying to guide people towards, is that being met? Are actually, or actually more people going for the anchor price, right? Which can be a scenario, and I have done it, tested it, and that tends to help me to find my new higher price. So meaning I can test the market. So instead of it being an anchor, it becomes my new norm, and I can possibly even create a new anchor based off that, right? So those are different ways to use it, and it's to me it excites me. I hope it does for you as well. Using price anchoring to maximize profit. So this is how you would do it. Set the anchor price, highlight the value proposition, show the context and the example, offer a range of options if you could, And definitely, you can also put in some decoy pricing, right? And you got to do it well and ethically. Speaking of which, ethical consideration, be honest and transparent. So don't trick anyone. So these should be actual services, actual value that you are providing, as mentioned from the first two chapters. When you want to give a higher price, or sorry, sell at a higher price and give the most value, you have belief that your offer is good and you have to sell confidently, right? So be honest, don't manipulate, react to your consumers, and you'll be fine. So what I would like you to do is just answer this question. So my anchor service and pricing can be, just look at your current service and price. Just think of what my anchor could be, right? Some examples, just extend it by 15 minutes, top up another $50 or so on. Could that be an anchor price? Go through the different variation options, think of your customers, what they would respond well to, because everyone's demographic is different. And just play around with it, write it down, use this statement if you like. And I'll catch you on the next chapter where we talk about package pricing.